Fine, I'll do exactly what you said, out of spite. Karen told me to stop the ride, so I did. I work at a small amusement park, and we have this ride called the Moby Duck. Yeah, not that one. Calm down, internet. It's one of those manually controlled rides where the operator decides how intense the swings get. A couple of weeks ago, this lady, let's call her Karen, showed up with her friend. They started mocking a kid who was on the ride, like actually insulting a 7-year-old. Without even looking up, I said, "Ma'am, you're making fun of a child. Stop it right now, or you won't be allowed on any rides." Karen just scoffed, "But I'm just saying the truth. Look at him." I repeated, "Ma'am, please stop insulting other guests. That's not acceptable." Her friend groaned, "Karen, please, not again. Just chill." When that ride ended, I started loading the next group. I told everyone, "Don't pull down the safety bars, I'll do it for you. Pick any seat you want, but please, hands off the bars. They break easily." A group of boys hopped in and took the edge seats. Then Karen storms in yelling that they took her spot and that she paid for an edge seat. I told her, "Ma'am, if you yell at those kids again, you'll be removed from the ride with no refund." She glared at me, "Don't tell me what to do." Her friend whispered, "Karen, just sit down in the middle." She grumbled but finally sat. When I checked her seatbelt, her bar was a bit loose, so I tightened it slightly. Karen gasped, "Are you trying to end me? First you didn't close it, now I can't breathe." I ignored her and finished my safety checks. Then I started the ride, gently at first. A few swings in, Karen screamed, "Stop the ride right now!" Oh, she said the magic words. So I stopped the ride, at the highest point possible, motor still on. The other 6 riders were having a blast, but Karen started screaming like a seagull that lost its fries. Then she started crying, full meltdown. The parents nearby, the same ones who'd heard her yell at kids earlier, were laughing their heads off. After about 30 seconds of pure panic, she wailed, "Put me down!" So I restarted the ride, full speed this time. The kids were cheering like it was a bonus round, so I gave them a few extra spins. When it was finally over, I yelled, "Stay seated until the bars are fully raised and locked." Of course, Karen immediately stood up early. The bar popped up and bunked her right on the forehead. Her friend lost it laughing and helped her out of the ride. My supervisor joked, "Then call the fire department." So I did. Back in the early 90s, yeah, I'm that old, get off my lawn, I worked for a big department store during the holiday season, the kind of store that doesn't even exist anymore, where management's motto is basically, if there's an inch of floor space, fill it with merchandise. By December, the aisles were packed tighter than a Black Friday crowd at a donut giveaway. You could barely squeeze through without turning sideways and praying to the retail gods. At one point, I casually mentioned to one of the floor supervisors that if the fire department ever dropped by, they'd shut us down instantly because every exit was blocked by shelves and racks. She was stressed out, snapped at me, and said sarcastically, "Then why don't you just call the fire department?" So I said, "All right, easy," and went on with my day. Later, on my way home, I stopped by a municipal building that housed several local offices. I explained the situation to the receptionist, and she pointed me to a phone and said, "You can call the fire department on the non-emergency line." So I did. The fire chief himself picked up. I told him what was going on and added that my supervisor basically told me to call. He laughed and said, "All right, well, check it out." The next day was my day off. When I came back, my coworkers couldn't wait to fill me in. Apparently, the chief himself showed up, along with a full inspection team. They took one look around and told our store director every single fire exit is blocked. This violates multiple safety codes. Move the racks or we'll have to close the place. The director tried to argue, claiming corporate made us do it. The fire chief stayed calm and said, "Okay then, guys, shut it down." And they did. 3 full floors of the department store were evacuated and sealed off. In December, during peak holiday shopping season. Even though it was a weekday, the financial loss was brutal. The director was fuming, but soon the sheriff's department arrived to make it official. The store stayed closed for about 5.5 hours until the staff and firefighters cleared the exits and rearranged everything to code. When I came back, my supervisor acted completely normal, as if she'd never dared me to make that call. The director kept his job, but corporate was not happy. A week later, I was working with just 2 people, the director, my supervisor, and me. She asked why we couldn't set something up a certain way. The director just said, "Fire department won't allow it. End of discussion." I stayed there for a few more weeks before moving on to another job, which, fun fact, nearly got me in the middle of a bang-bang situation, but that's a whole different story. Fine, I'm not your office manager anymore. Back when I was interning at a small law firm, I ended up doing everything. I mean, literally everything. Setting up computers, buying office supplies, paying bills, going to court, meeting clients, you name it. Our secretary barely did 20% of her job and refused to do anything else. The boss couldn't fire her because shady business, unpaid taxes, all that mess. He was afraid she'd squeal. Discipline never applied. We worked out of the boss's mom's house, and naturally, the secretary spent half her day gossiping with her. Who got blamed for everything? Me! I was constantly made out to be incompetent, which led to tears and almost made me quit from stress. One day, I asked the secretary to buy some office supplies. She screamed at me, "You're not the office manager. Stop acting like the boss." Even though I was senior to her in both age and role, the boss did nothing. In fact, he was annoyed with me, along with his mother. At that moment, I decided, fine, if everyone thinks I'm not the office manager, I'll stop doing those tasks. And so began malicious compliance. I stopped managing the office. No more paying bills, no more buying supplies, no more reminding the boss about meetings. Nada. For 2 weeks, the electricity got cut off due to unpaid bills, leaving the boss's elderly mother and her family in the dark. We couldn't work either. Once the power came back, the phones were disconnected. Again, unpaid. Work stalled. Mail piled up. No office supplies. Vendors refused service because they weren't being paid. I just focused on my own legal work. When the Wi-Fi got cut, I connected my laptop to my phone's mobile data, quietly without telling anyone. After a few weeks, the boss and his mom begged me to resume office duties. I refused and stuck to my legal cases. The result? My billable hours went up. My salary went up. Eventually, I transferred to another branch where coworkers actually did their jobs. I've been there for 2 years now, finally surrounded by people who get paid to do what they're actually supposed to do. You can't pick up extra shifts. You've had too many sick days. Okay, say less. I'm a nurse at a big hospital. During the first and second waves of the pandemic, our unit got turned into a full-on COVID ward. We were constantly short-staffed because nurses kept getting sick. Anytime I felt even slightly off, I'd call in, stay home, and get tested. If the test came back positive, 2 weeks off, no penalty. If it was negative, I went right back to work. Sounds reasonable, right? Apparently not for management. One day, I got called into the manager's office. She gave me a verbal warning for taking too many sick days. I just stared at her and said, "You realize we're in a pandemic, right?" She nodded, "Yes, but we still have to follow our attendance policy." Here's the kicker. Every morning when we clock in, a big message pops up on the screen saying, "During the pandemic, you must monitor your health. By clocking in, you confirm that you're symptom-free." So basically, I had two options. Lie about how I felt, or tell the truth and get punished for it. Enter malicious compliance mode. Activated. Normally, I picked up extra shifts in a neighboring unit. Not for the money, but because they were always understaffed. My manager hated that and wanted me to help only our team. After the warning, she told me, as punishment, you can't pick up shifts in other units for 90 days. If you want overtime, take it here. Well, joke's on her, I didn't need the extra cash. So I stopped picking up any extra shifts at all. Within days, they started calling, then begging. Every night, someone would message me, "Please, can you cover just one shift? We're drowning." Turns out, one of the reasons our unit was short-staffed was because management kept sending our nurses to that same neighboring unit she banned me from helping. Funny how that works. 90 days later, I was officially allowed to pick up shifts elsewhere again. That very same day, I submitted my 2 weeks' notice. Within those 2 weeks, I got hired by another hospital, better pay, better hours, and a management team that doesn't confuse dedication with self-sacrifice. My old boss tried to say, "With your seniority, you're required to give 4 weeks' notice." I just smiled and said, "No, that's just a courtesy, and I'm giving you exactly as much courtesy as you gave me when I took sick leave." Boss said, "Don't just say BRB." Fine, you asked for it. So this happened recently at my job in a call center. We got a new manager, let's call her Bosszilla, and it was painfully obvious she got promoted for reasons other than competence. I could write a whole post about that, but long story short, she's besties with our big boss and constantly gives him dating advice. Yeah, real professional setup we've got going on. Anyway, our team communicates through Microsoft Teams. It's our usual place to ask for help, share info, or just say when we step away. For years, whenever someone had to leave their desk for a few minutes, they'd simply type BRB, or stepped away. Everyone understood that meant don't route calls to me for a bit. Simple, effective, problem-free. Enter Bosszilla. She decided we needed more transparency. One by one, she messaged us privately saying, from now on, you have to specify why you're stepping away. I told her that I didn't really feel comfortable announcing to the entire office when I'm, visiting the porcelain throne. She shrugged and said, rules are rules. I need to know exactly what everyone's doing. Okay then, boss lady wants specifics. She'll get specifics. Next time nature called, instead of my usual stepped away, I wrote stepped away, heading to the restroom for some serious business. Within seconds, she DM'd me. That's unprofessional. I reminded her that I was just following her rule about transparency. And that's when the rest of the team joined the revolution. Here's some of my favorite follow-ups from my coworkers. Stepped away, off to the urinal to reenact a fountain. Stepped away, blowing my nose, wish me luck against the mega booger. Stepped away, bathroom time, might need a motivational speech. After a week of this chaotic honesty, Bossilla called a meeting and announced, okay, maybe we don't need to be that specific. Yeah, we'd known that all along. So my boss kept calling me during my vacation. All right then, I decided to make that vacation permanent. This is a story about my ex-employer. I work somewhere in the Northeast US, and back then our company was tiny, just the boss and 5 of us trying to hold things together. It's a super niche field, and about 90% of our work was on construction sites. Finding skilled people in this trade is harder than finding a polite comment on Twitter. Now my boss was that guy, the kind everyone at work quietly wished would step on a Lego. He was obsessed with saving every single cent while overbooking himself like a clown at a 3-ring circus. He'd signed 6 projects in 1 week, knowing full well there were only 5 employees. Result? We'd end up grinding for 14 hours a day or more. And of course, no overtime pay because we were on fixed salaries. Classic boss math. The worst part wasn't even the overwork. It was the vacation ambushes. He'd approve time off? Sure. But then call or text during it with lines like, hey buddy, could you come in just for 1 day? Maybe cut your vacation short a bit. Sometimes he'd even ask to move my vacation to a lighter week. Spoiler alert, that week never came. There was always too much work. I put up with that nonsense for 6 years. Then my son was born, and suddenly things changed. So, a few months before my kid was due, I made things crystal clear to my boss. I said, I'm taking 5 weeks of unpaid leave. The law says I could take 8, but I know that's rough for a small company, so I'll settle for 5. But during those 5 weeks, I'm completely unreachable. No calls, no texts, no just one quick favor. The answer will always be no. I want to spend this time with my family. Don't even try. Boss man gave me that fake understanding nod, like, of course, totally get it. Family comes first. Sure, buddy. Fast forward, the big day arrives. My son's born on a Friday. He had to spend a short time in the newborn ICU. Don't worry, everything turned out fine. By Monday, we were home. By Tuesday morning, guess what? I woke up to a missed call, an email, and 3 messages from my boss, all marked urgent. And because I'm apparently too nice for my own good, I actually called him back. He starts with, hey man, tiny emergency. I messed up the schedule and one of the job sites has no one there. Could you come in today? Maybe just for a couple of days this week while I find someone to cover? I swear I felt something physically snap in my neck at that moment. I went full keyboard warrior mode, but out loud. What came out of my mouth could have melted steel beams. I told him exactly what I thought about his tiny emergencies and his complete lack of boundaries. It was not my most professional moment. Even now, a year later, I still cringe a bit thinking about it. At the end, I calmed down enough to apologize, sort of. Yeah, he acted like a total donut by calling me right after my kid was born, but I probably didn't need to go full rage boss on him. Naturally, he didn't take it well, and then he said the sentence that made this whole story possible. You've got a great position here. Guys your age would be lucky to have your job. I'd be very surprised if you could find something better. I've been in this industry for 30 years. Trust me, good gigs like this don't come around often. Think about it. So I did, for about 30 seconds. Then I got out of bed, fired up my computer, and opened a job site. 5 weeks later, my leave was over. On my very first day back, I walked straight into Boss Man's office and handed him a piece of paper. He blinked and said, "What's this?" I smiled. "Remember when you said you'd be shocked if I found something better? Well, surprise." He started reading the document. It was an offer letter from one of our competitors. Same position, 25% higher pay, 1 extra week of paid vacation, and, my personal favorite, a written company policy that said 8-hour workday, clock out, go home, no exceptions. Boss man went pale like someone just unplugged his Wi-Fi. Then he mumbled, maybe give me a day. I can recalculate and make you a counteroffer. I shook my head. No need. I just wanted you to see it for yourself. Otherwise, you'd never believe me. I handed in my 2-week notice right there. And for poetic symmetry, I spent my final day working on the exact site he'd begged me to cover during my baby leave. That was a year ago. Since then, I've been with my new company, and honestly, I've never been happier. I get time with my family, I watch my son grow up, and that's the best perk any job could ever offer. Pro tip for every boss or manager out there: don't turn your employees' lives into a chaos buffet, especially the good ones. Treat them the way you'd want to be treated. Most people don't quit their jobs, they quit their bosses. Thanks for watching. Remember, sometimes following the rules just a little too literally can be the most satisfying revenge.